So Elden Ring's DLC made its way into Game Awards Game of the Year category, but I feel like the DLC does not belong there and I am probably gonna get a lot of hate for this. However, I want you guys to hear out my reasoning behind this, and then maybe we can take it to the comment section. First of all, I love the DLC. If you see my videos, you can see most of my content is from Elden Ring's DLC. If anything, my channel actually started from the DLC, and my first video itself was setting up a character for the DLC. So I am a big fanboy, and I am somebody who's spent a lot of hours into that DLC, and I'm probably gonna spend even more in the upcoming weeks, even months. I'm just gonna be all over the DLC for quite a while. I also have a playthrough going with my girlfriend, so I am putting in a lot of hours into that DLC, and I absolutely adore it. I want to keep on playing it again and again. It is massive. It has a lot of content. It elaborated further on what we got before, and they gave us more weapons, they gave us more incantations, sorceries, and new armor sets for the drip, and we also got some cool new bosses, some controversial bosses, but those can be a separate topic. However, at the same time, there is one little thing that always makes me say that the DLC does not belong in that category, and the reasoning is you cannot play the DLC without having the base game. I understand that the DLC is really good, and people want to recognize that. People want to not just recognize it themselves, but they also want the community or the people around them or just the gaming scene in general to recognize how good of a DLC it is. Set the bars that high so that all of the content that they receive is as good as the DLC. And honestly, I would love that. I want the gaming content to be good. It's not been a long time since I actually built my first PC, and I would say, if anything, right now is when I'm really starting to get into different kinds of games, because I restricted myself into a genre, but now I'm expanding it, and FromSoft is actually somebody I'm starting to really like. So if FromSoft is setting a high bar for everybody else, and that means that all the games in different categories are gonna be that good, I am all up for it, and I want that to be recognized. However, why did the Game Awards just not think of something new? Why not do something unique and maybe come up with a new temporary category, let's say, to recognize a content that came out in that year, rather than just shove it in one of the existing categories where it does not belong? Now, obviously, one of the biggest arguments I have heard around this is Dark Souls 3 getting snubbed by the Witcher 3 DLC, which is a very valid argument. Obviously, I was not a big FromSoft fan, or I didn't even know back then that FromSoft exists, so I would not care as much about that as a lot of people do, so I don't share the same sentiment, but at the same time. And one thing I do want people to understand is, if they made a mistake once in the past, why are you asking them to make the mistake again? Now, this is kind of a silly question, because the why is answered in the sense that obviously we like the DLC, we want it to be recognized, and we know that one of the FromSoft's game got robbed by a DLC, so well, now we need to also do that to somebody else. But we could also just end this petty war by just saying as a community that no, DLC, since it requires you to buy the base game, do a certain amount of objectives, and then be able to play the DLC, it should not be categorized or even considered a game or a standalone title and be recognized as one, because it actually isn't. It is great, it has a lot of amazing content, but it is not a standalone title, and we should have just left it at that. Yes, Game Awards made a mistake, but please, maybe it's time we let them fix that problem by, putting the DLC where it belongs, maybe in a separate category, or maybe in no category at all. Why not just give it an honorable mention? Okay guys, this was one of the best DLCs, or likely best DLC that ever came out, and it broke all the records. It did this much in numbers, we want to recognize it, maybe play some cool music from it in the actual award show that actually take care of some entertainment section. Maybe bring in some of the people to introduce or like announce some of their next projects or what they are doing right now. Like, are they just chilling on the beach or are they working on something else? Now, I also have a speculation that they might actually announce Armored Core DLC. I would really like to see that because they announced Armored Core in 2022 Game Awards. So I would be super happy if they come out at this Game Awards and they announce the Armored Core DLC. Like, that is something I would be totally happy with. Let the people come out, be like, we thank you guys for all the support for the DLC, and we want to like let you guys know that we appreciate all the love and support, rather than putting the game in a category where it's super controversial. A lot of people don't appreciate it, but you're just banking on a community to just back you up in doing a wrong thing, which you also did in the past, so you're gonna do it again, which just to me does not make sense. Just say something positive. There's a lot of positives that can be said about something, rather than just, shoving it into a category that you have and hoping that a certain community will support you. Please just stop doing that and take some responsibility, Game Awards, and put stuff where it belongs, even if it means you have to bring in a temporary category. I doubt anybody cares for a temporary category. Like, obviously, the only problem that could bring is if they put a DLC in a DLC category this year. Fans of some different game might be disappointed if a good DLC comes out for their game next year and the Game Awards just decide they're not gonna do it because they don't like it, or maybe they don't think it's worth their time, and then the category is just removed as a whole. So maybe that's the reason that they didn't want to do it, but at the same time, just including it into whatever categories you have is a bit of a stretch, and I do not like it. This is where I sit. Now, I am expecting kind of a split in the comments. I hope we can have a nice discussion. Now, I will say that for the better part of me, I did want it to be nominated because of how good it was, but then also listening to the other side, I feel like I have decided which side I want to be on, which is DLC should not be part of the Game of the Year category. And if you are a firm believer as to why it should be in that category, other than the reasons that I have obviously stated, which it's good, or in fact it's great, but it does not mean that it qualifies for a category it doesn't belong to. And then the second part, yes, a DLC has won, but maybe it's also a time where they can fix their mistake by just giving the DLC some other kind of recognition rather than giving it the Game of the Year award. I'm not saying that, they're gonna win, but just seeing that game over there just kind of makes me feel a little bit weird about the awards and what they're signifying. Like, it almost feels like they don't really care about the actual game. All they care about is, we cannot dissatisfy a certain fan base. We will get called out, we'll get bashed, and maybe that's all there is behind this. And if that's the reasoning, that's even more sad. But yeah, this is how I feel about this whole situation, and please let me know in the comments how you feel about the DLC being put in the Game of the Year category. Now, I have not made up my mind. I feel like if somebody can put down a good, nice summary in the comment and I read it, I'll rethink it and I'll probably, change my mind. But as of right now, I feel like the DLC should not belong in that category. Thanks for watching, guys. Sorry for stretching the same point for so long. I feel like I just wanted to get everything I had in my head out. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys.